You ever have a year that you just think changes your brain chemistry? The movies, the shows, all bangers in that year that shape who you are. You? Me? There are several such years like that for me. 1977 is the one we're going to be starting with. It was a great year for music. Also, a little indie film that we're not going to talk about until a little later, but shh. Don't look over there. Let's start off with Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. In the special credits and special thanks of this album, they wanted to include their dealer. The only thing that stopped them was the fact that he passed away before this album was released, so they couldn't include him, which, a shame, truly a shame. What about this in my collection changed my brain chemistry? Well, I was introduced to it around the 40th anniversary, knowing that it was my mom's favorite album, and I got a Christmas that year. I meant to get it for her, but it somehow got given to me, so you know what? Cool. But at first, I didn't really jive with it, but as time went on and more listenings to it, I can understand that, like, it's a really good album. Not to mention all the instrumentation, the vocal performances, the drums. Oh my god, the drums on this album, great. I love them. And I'm very particular about drums, even though a little lore for you. Even though I did play saxophone for a while, I always wanted to play drums. So any album that you have really good drums on, I'm there, which is why I have a lot of metal. I think it's just for the drums. Not Lars Ulrich, though. Look at this album cover. I love it. I love everything about it. Also, Stevie Nicks, oh my god, she's perfect. She is quite literally perfect, and I love her, and I'm so glad that this wasn't her first album with the band, no. But it definitely launched something. When I think of Stevie Nicks, it's most of this album. That and Edge of 17 for, obvious reasons. Music aside, to be a little vulnerable, help me with connect. Musical joy aside, I just wanted to say that I have connected with my mom through this album, and that is always a good thing. Enough of that goofy, sentimental baloney, though. Time to talk about capitalism and how it's bad, with a lot of metaphors and pigs and animals by Pink Floyd. 1977. Just goes to show you, 45 plus years later, this album still rings very true because, if anything, it's gotten worse in terms of the billionaires and everything costing a lot of money and just all that in general. It's still a really good album. Do I think Dogs needed to be 18 minutes long? No. But that's Pink Floyd, and I have a much larger analysis on them coming later. Yes, I like Pink Floyd a lot, as you may or may not know. Continuing his utter dominance of the band, Roger Waters decided to make an album about society at the time and what he felt was the degrading of the punk music. Punk movement? Yes. All yes. So, he wrote, along with his bandmates, Animals. Now, its impact on me is obviously seeing that, hey, wait a minute, things need to change, and, all that stuff with art. Also, it is one of my dad's favorite albums, and we have listened to it together in many occasions. And I believe this is the album I own on the most formats. I own it on record, I own it on cassette, thanks to my dad. I own it on Blu-ray audio, which is just so many other things, even all these years later, and the remixes that came out in 2018, still very valid album, and it deserves a place in my heart. Not to mention the art's really cool. Now, if you know me in real life, I'm sorry. How did you find this? But there is one thing that many people know about me. Doctor Who in 1977. I'm kidding. Star Wars, baby! Star Wars! I'm saying Star Wars because it wasn't named A New Hope until the prequels started coming out, and also the special editions, which I have here, they started renaming them and episoding them. Otherwise, it was just Star Wars. And you can get the original cut via Laserdisc, which I would have preferred to have since everything else is in the form factor of a 12-inch record. And what are Laserdiscs if not 12-inch records of video? Unless you want to count the RCA CED, but that's a whole other can of worms. But I like Star Wars a tad. A little bit. I mean, look at all these disgusting shrines of plastic to this glory. And even though it's not my favorite, it's still up there, but I have other favorites in the franchise, not to mention the Clone Wars, but it's still nice to see where it all started and all those ideas sort of solidified. Not to mention, it's really funny thinking of the story of how it was created. All because George Lucas was told, no, you can't direct Flash Gordon. And he said, you know what, fine, I'll make my own Flash Gordon, which mixes that, Dune, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we have one of the most profitable franchises ever, next to Marvel, both owned by Disney. And I am owned by Disney myself through some dicey acquisitions in the 1970s. So what's the point of all this? This is kind of just an introduction video to how I feel about these certain franchises and topics and all this stuff. And this is a nice introduction compared to where the next video is going. That year, so many other things. However, I just love the opportunity to info dump things that I care about and the reasons why they're cool to me. And you know what? Sharing is caring. And also, my prized possession is that one Black Series figure of Rex up there. It's from the Bad Batch, where he's like got a Mad Max vibe on. That and that Samurai Boba Fett. Count Dooku's there too. Bye. Oh, before I